Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is Wednesday, the epicenter of yet another very busy broadcast week. It is March 4th, and it is balmy here in the Finger Lakes region of New York. I think we're up over 40 degrees. Let's go, everyone. It is a beautiful springy day. We're approaching the Ides of March, my least favorite time of the year, because I always get a little nervous given what happened almost 6 years ago, the lockdowns of 2020, the day that changed everything in the United States of America. It was horrific. It was destructive to the nation, destructive to our families, small businesses, freedom, liberty, our health, our society, our culture. And there's never been a reckoning, right? Here we are, over a year into the presidency of Donald Trump. He was supposed to come in and make it right. Bobby Kennedy Jr. supposed to take control of HHS and address the atrocities of 2020, the killing hospitals, the poison jabs. But alas, the jabs are still in the market, and justice is proving to be elusive. And it's tragedy. Yesterday, we featured Sasha Latypova, big New York Times piece talking about the fracture of the medical freedom movement and the loss of support of Bobby Kennedy Jr., Maha, in addition to, other support bases as the president and Kennedy betray their constituencies time and time again. Big show yesterday with Sasha. You do not want to miss that. Go back and take a look at it. Today, we're going to bring Scott Schara in, another medical freedom warrior. You see the headline of today's show: War Abroad and War at Home. The government's legalized killing machine. From Iran to Iowa, it's time that we fully understand, America, that our own government has legalized the killing of United States citizens in theaters of war with the troops, but here at home as well. And this interview today with Scott Schara, he's going to be coming in just about a half an hour, will absolutely blow your mind. His new book asks a very simple question: is the government legally killing us? And I think to more and more Americans, amazingly, it seems that the answer is yes. I had a crazy conversation yesterday with my 14-year-old son about what the kids are talking about around the cafeteria table at school. And I asked him about Epstein. I'm like, hey, are you guys talking about the Epstein files at all? And he's like, yeah, we're talking about it all the time. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? What's the context? And basically all the kids are talking about how Epstein and the government people eat babies. That's what the kids are talking about in school today. The COVID generation, the generation that had their childhoods ripped away from them, and fear and lockdowns and loss of learning, loss of friendships, all of these things are now grappling with the idea that the government, their presidents, their elected officials, diplomats, bureaucrats are eating babies because of the revelations out of the Epstein files. You can't make it up. I grew up thinking that politicians were liars, and some of them were crooks, and some of them were criminals. That was really the baseline for most Americans on the nature of a politician. This generation, the COVID generation, is growing up with the understanding that the people who run things murder children, rape children, and eat children. Think about that. Think about that. I mean, it might be, I'm going to be honest. I think maybe as Americans, we need to start grappling with the reality that our government has set up a legal apparatus based on court cases, court hearings, laws, and statutes built in to the legal system, both at the federal and state level, that normalizes, justifies, and legalizes the mass killing of their own citizens, non-combatants, not the military in a theater of war, but here in the United States of America. We witnessed it in the killing hospitals of 2020. Scott Schara witnessed it with his own eyes when they murdered his daughter. Not only was he abused by the medical industrial complex, he was abused by the political system, our governmental system. And then when he filed a lawsuit for the wrongful death of his daughter, Grace Schara, he was abused by the legal system. One of the most horrifying cases to watch, when it was systematically laid out that this hospital, following government protocol, knowingly killed his daughter against his wishes, against her wishes. Euthanasia, democide. You see, the problem with ignoring what they did to us in 2020 in the nursing homes and in the killing hospitals and with Operation Warp Speed and the rollout of the poison shot, which has devastated millions of lives here in the US. The problem with ignoring it and waiting and giving them time and not pushing for justice and pushing for a reckoning is that if you let them get away with it, they will come back and they will do it harder and harder and harder until we wake up and figure out that we're dealing with a hostile government. I mean, these headlines are crazy, crazy town headlines. I see you on the live chat, everyone. Welcome to the live chat. If you're watching, of course, we are live here every day at noon, around noon Eastern time. We're broadcasting live on Rumble. We're live on Twitter, Substack, Facebook, Spreely TV. So many of you are listening via podcast at your leisure. Welcome to the SJ Show. I love all the chats. Inez Annie Cyrus is producing the SJ Show today, and she's keeping an eye on the Twitter feed, also the Substack feed and the Facebook feed. If you have a comment or a question, please throw it on up there. But I do want to say a special hello to the Rumble live chatters. Lou Melancom is the first chatter of the day. Hey, Shannon, trying to stay sane with the firehouse news in my face. Thank you for being the voice of sanity. I don't know, Lou, if I'm sane. We're living in an insane world. I think that's what we have to understand. The headlines aren't sane. The headlines are full of lies. Left-wing media, right-wing media, the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, international media, mainstream media, Hollywood, you name it. It is so difficult to trust anything that you see or hear or read these days. And it has the impact. I mean, if you don't keep your head on straight, you will go insane. It'll drive you mad. Sometimes I think that's what they're trying to do, turning us upside down and inside out, telling us what we know to be false. It's very Orwellian. 2 + 2 = 5. No, it doesn't. It's 4. No, 2 + 2 = 5. No, it doesn't. It's 4. No, Winston, 2 + 2 = 5. And then you lose your mind, right? Like, this is the level of gaslighting that we are dealing with today. And you have to laugh about it. You have to keep your head on straight. We have to stay focused, because in the fog of war, there are all kinds of bad things happening. I have a lot of headlines to hit today and action items. Behind the scenes, as we are discussing the conflict in Iran, bombs are dropping all over the Middle East, and the headlines are flying. We have the Genius Act and a farm bill and the SAVE Act that are being passed, and they're all terrible. All terrible. We have an action item, children's health defense, from Michael Caine. The 2026 Farm Bill is out of control. This is from Children's Health Defense, and a statement put out by Michael Caine. The government is trying to slip in extremely damaging policies for American health, and we need your help. I linked that in the show notes of today's show. immunity for pesticide companies, the glyphosate stuff, all sorts of horrifying things slipped into the farm bill. They want to push that through. The Genius Act, this is from our friend Aaron Day. This is great news, actually. Donald Trump put out a Truth Social yesterday saying that the Genius Act is being threatened and undermined. He's saying it's by the banks, but I think what's happening is that people are waking up to the grift that is the Genius Act and the creation of these new global cryptocurrencies that Donald Trump and his family have their hands in. It's a private enterprise. They are grifting, they are plundering, and they're setting up what appears to be a digital equivalent of the United States physical dollar, only it's privatized. There's no government, and Donald Trump runs it. This is through World Liberty Financial. I have a big piece for you from Patrick Wood on technocracy, a 3-part piece. There are 3 headlines here, but the Gaza technate, for the first time in history, technocracy is in plain view. The second headline, the Trump family is jockeying to replace the dollar globally as their wealth soars. They took a zero valuation business, all right, $0, and turned it into a $13 billion empire in just 18 months. They are using the office of the presidency. They are using their access to the Oval Office and the United States government to use these bills, the Genius Act, the state, there are a couple of them, to usher in backdoor CBDCs, privatized CBDCs, and they stand to make trillions off the deal. They just penned a massive deal with Pakistan, not the United States of America, but the Trump family and their subsidiaries and their partners. This story is unbelievable. The level of grift. These guys are plundering, and they're plundering hard. And they know that the United States of America is in peril and that our economy is built on a bubble, a massive bubble. They know it's going to come down. And right now they are setting up the infrastructure a la Jeffrey Epstein style to profit during the crisis, to profit amidst the crash. And that is the baseline of their strategy. These are not governments. These are criminal enterprises. From the UK to the United States of America to Israel, they're all working together. And the whole plan is chaos and war and death and destruction. And they profit all the way down on every level of it. Whether it's via the democide in their own countries to the foreign wars. And you will understand this. We're going to get a little deep today before we bring in Scott Schara. But you will understand this in a much better way when we go through this piece, very important piece from Patrick Wood, on how the Trump family, after pumping and dumping their meme coins and defrauding innocent Americans out of billions of dollars, have somehow morphed that into a $13 billion empire created out of thin air. So this is insane. But Aaron Day, so this might be one of the reasons, because more and more people are waking up to this. There is pushback against the Genius Act. And Donald Trump yesterday pushed out on Truth Social that boo-hoo, the Genius Act is being threatened and undermined by the banks, he says. And that is unacceptable. We're not going to allow it. So Donald Trump is going to play up the evil banks. And we know all about the Federal Reserve. We know all about fractional reserve banking. We know how they cheat. We know how they partner with the federal government to inflate everything, create inflation, and devalue the dollar. We've got into that in great detail on the SJ show over the past 12 years. So this audience knows what's going on there. But in this case, the pushback from the bankers is absolutely justified. This is what Aaron Day had to say about it in the Genius Act. See, this is why we have to keep our heads on straight. And even in the fog of war and in the release of all the Epstein files and all of the crazy headlines that we're going to see come down the pipe, whether it's a zombie apocalypse or an alien invasion or UFOs being discovered or bears on the moon, whatever it is, right? We need to keep our heads on straight. We need to remain focused. We have to become educated and ready to resist and fight back. And this is what Aaron Day had to say. The Genius Act is a backdoor CBDC. Trump's family, through USD1, so this is the Trump family created crypto dollar that mimics the real dollar as they crash it, okay? So they're in the process of rug pulling the United States of America, dumping the dollar, but setting up an infrastructure, in this case in crypto, to profit as we move into what they hope is their controlled global currency system. Our job is to make sure they don't get away with it. But they're trying. And Aaron seems to believe here that we can stop this. The Genius Act is a backdoor CBDC. Trump's family, through the USD1, is one of the biggest personal beneficiaries, as is U.S. Commerce Secretary and BFF with Jeffrey Epstein, Howard Lutnick, by the way, who is now being called to testify in front of Congress regarding his relationship, his deep, deep, deep relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. These people are criminals and they're monsters, and they have control over everything. Not for long. He goes on, they are planning to use these backdoor CBDCs through the Board of Peace, another fraudulent, grifting organization that is fleecing the American citizen and taxpayer. But they're going to use the USD1 plus the Board of Peace, which is the governing body that is going to run everything in the technocratic reconstruction of Gaza. So Gaza, essentially, if you want to put this in COVID terms, if you remember Event 201, that happened in the fall of 2019, about 6 months before they locked us down. They simulated what would happen during a worldwide global pandemic and how they would all profit from it and how they would address it. It was a simulation of something to come that was already pre-planned. And we've seen this in the release of the Epstein files. This is one of the biggest bombshells coming out of the Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein was heavily involved in creating the financial infrastructure that would benefit from permanent pandemics. So rolling pandemics throughout the rest of human history in the 21st century that would enrich people like Bill Gates in every aspect of the pandemic, from the death and destruction to the cures and the shots or vaccines, the countermeasures used to battle the quote unquote pandemic. Well, of course, that poisons another round of Americans, and then you benefit from treating them. And it sets up really a permanent financial system based on the destruction of human bodies. It's very grotesque when you think about it. Well, they're doing the same thing financially, and the simulation, it appears, is Gaza. And this is why they raised it. This is why Israel partnered with the United States of America to clean it out and demolish it. It's for Trump and his family and the Trump boys to come in and raise it up in this new technocratic utopia. And according to Aaron Day, we can stop this. So I've been retweeting Aaron. We'll give you some more information tomorrow about what's going on with the Farm Bill, what is going on with the Genius Act, and what we can do to organize to stop these, because I think it's great. I mean, if the POTUS is coming out and saying that, oh my gosh, we're being threatened and undermined, in the passage of the Genius Act, well, that's a great thing. That's amazing. That's the market pushing back. And that's really our job, everyone, is to throw as many wrenches as we possibly can in all of their plans. And we do that from the bottom up, localized level. But we do have to stay focused. And really, to be honest, I am kind of glad that my son Teddy and all of his friends are understanding. It's amazing. The COVID generation raised with an understanding that their government is full of predators, vicious predators, because of the revelations in the Epstein files. And I think that's a good thing. I think we have to operate under the assumption that the government is trying to kill you. I really think that that's where we need to be. That needs to be our posture moving forward over the next couple years. And then if they don't, well, we'll be pleasantly surprised. But operating under the illusion or the illusion that government people are going to protect you, I think is wildly and dangerously naive. And we aren't going to do that here on the Shannon Joy Show. We are going to try to seek the truth and empower as many people across the globe to resist. So let's go back to the live chat, and then we're going to get into this piece from Patrick Wood. And then in about 8 or 9 minutes, we're going to bring Scott Schara in to talk about his new book, which, quite frankly, asks the perfect question. Is the government legally killing us? Well, he lived it tragically, and he's not sticking his head in the sand. He's not ignoring it. He's not giving up on justice, despite what he has been through, what our government and our legal system and our medical system has put him through and his family through. He's not backing down. He's still going for justice. And if Scott Schara can, well, we can too, right? I don't want to hear anything about, oh, they're never going to be exposed. Oh, we're never going to get justice. I'm not buying that. And quite frankly, that's not biblical. God commands us to seek justice in many scriptures throughout the Old Testament and New. And even though we understand that vengeance is the Lord's, right? He is the ultimate decider. He is the ultimate judge. That doesn't mean that we don't go for it here in our time when we live on this earth in obedience to him. So there will be no giving up. And I cannot wait to talk to Scott Schara in just a little bit. But let me say hello to all of you on the live chat. How is everyone feeling today? Buskman, I see you on the live chat. Be my Valentine. Great to see you. CJP Rumble. Of course they are, Buskman. U.S. officials are stranding Americans in Israel. Yeah, the 1-800 number that the government sent out for people stranded in the Middle East. Yeah, it's giving them the big fat middle finger, because why? The government doesn't care about you. The government's not coming to save you. And the government is actually invested in killing you. So I know these are hard things to process, but the faster we rip this Band-Aid off, the better, and the safer you'll be. Strident Conservative, I see you on the live chat. Meanwhile, Trump is spreading the narco-terrorism war he started in Venezuela to Ecuador. And of course, I pushed this out on the twit yesterday because, we should just get ahead of it, right? We know what's going on with our government, all right? We know about the false flags. We know about all the lies and the propaganda. We know about their incentives. And I think we just need to be prepared for retaliation, right? Here on American soil to what's going on in Iran, right? So should there be a terror attack in the United States of America in retaliation, I'm just going to go ahead right now and assume that it's our own government. All right, let's just start there. Let them prove otherwise, right? Because I'm sick and tired of these manufactured crises. And we just can't allow them to convince us to live in fear, because again, then they're going to use that. The whole point is, how do we build up the infrastructure of control and surveillance and legalized killing? Oh my gosh, this is a crazy story. Meta will do this tomorrow. Mark Zuckerberg's Meta, creepy, pervy humans, all right, in Nairobi, Kenya, are creeping on U.S. citizens through their users' smart glasses. So 7 million pairs sold in 2025 alone. I do not know who would buy this stuff. I think as Americans, we need to lay off the tech a little bit, especially the surveillance tech in our homes and on our bodies. Every single pair generates a training data. They need humans to train the AI that is collecting data through your glasses, okay, your spy glasses. Workers now are very disturbed at Meta, and they're telling Swedish journalists that they see people undressing, using bathrooms, having sex, and accidentally filming bank card details. They see everything, including other people. So if you're hanging out with someone who's wearing their glasses, well, your face is being captured as well. All right? Maybe we don't need so much tech. We'll do that tomorrow on the Shannon Joy Show. But I do want to make sure we get in to overview these three pieces that are linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. This is from Patrick Wood and Technocracy. Again, watch what the other hand is doing and watch what's happening in the fog of war. They're going to try to slip things in. And right now, they're trying to set up the infrastructure for Trump's new wholly controlled digital currency system. This is insane. The headline here from Patrick Wood, the Gaza Technate, for the first time in history, technocracy is in plain view. He said, last week I was shocked to find out that Trump's meme coin, after defrauding millions here in America, had morphed into a $13 billion empire after starting with zero in September of 24. It's called World Liberty Financial, and the crypto token is called USD1. In the interim, the Trump boys have now scored a major deal with Pakistan. And on January 14, 26, the World Liberty Financial signed a strategic agreement with the government of Pakistan via SC Financial Technologies to integrate USD1, which sounds a lot like USD, doesn't it? Very official, very governmental. No, this is Trump's private crappy crypto coin, operating as the official US crypto or stable coin or token or however they're going to do it. SC Financial Technologies is going to integrate USD1 into Pakistan's regulated digital payment architecture for cross-border payments. This is the first sovereign-level adoption of USD1 and signals the platform's ambition to become a global dollar settlement layer, a digital form for emerging markets, bypassing traditional correspondent banking entirely. Right? They're going to frame this as, oh, we're going after the big bankers, even though they have all benefited and cheated and committed theft with the big bankers for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But now the real criminals and the real crooks are going to try to move us all into their crappy tokens and their crappy digital coins. And Trump is fully invested. So the piece here, the Trump family is jockeying to replace the dollar globally as their wealth soars, is also linked in the show notes. It's all under that first link to Technocracy. But they're using the USD1, also marketed as the truth dollar, through a series of shell corporations, World Liberty Financial, DT Marks, and DeFi LLC. They're partnering up with the United Arab Emirates advisor, Sheikh Tanoon bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Okay, he's dubbed the Spy Sheik, who also invested in this crypto scam, and also a company called BitGo, whose CEO Mike Belshi founded it in 2013, but was a major Trump political ally during the 2024 election cycle, and he was hosting $50,000 per plate Trump fundraisers, and they were headlined by J.D. Vance. Clearly, his investment paying off. Basically, this piece lays out how World Liberty Financial is not just issuing a stable coin, it is building a full stack programmable financial infrastructure with real world assets and tokenization at its core. Patrick Wood writes here, the USD1 is not a dollar helper. It is the first large-scale attempt to privatize the dollar settlement function, creating a parallel financial infrastructure that mimics the dollar's value, bypasses its institutional governance, and concentrates its profits in a family-controlled holding company shielded by political power. The dollar dominance argument is the legitimizing narrative for what is structurally the dollarization of a private empire. And the Trump family is fabulously wealthy thanks to their nest of crypto companies. It's their WLF started in 2024 of September or September 24, but by October, it was valued at around 1.5 billion. As of February, 8 billion, plus the holdco company value of over $5 billion. That's $13 billion controlled all by the Trump family. So they're crooks, they're criminals, and all of this is going to play out in the Gaza technate, which we'll get into tomorrow. So the Gaza technate is going to put together, and I'm just going to give you the pull quote here, and we'll go in a little deeper tomorrow. Tiffany Cianci, by the way, joining us, and she is an expert in all of this. So make sure you don't miss tomorrow's show. But what is new in Gaza, what they're building here, so with USD1, World Liberty Financial, and this new crypto dollar, okay, along with the Board of Peace, which is the governing entity, and then what they're doing in Gaza, this is the overview. What's new in Gaza is this experiment's completeness. Again, think of Gaza as the Event 201, the simulation. This is why we have to keep a close eye on what's going on there. By the way, people are fleeing Dubai. A lot of these controlled areas in the Middle East, these technates, are not doing so well. So what's new in Gaza is the experiment's completeness. No prior technocratic initiative has ever simultaneously controlled the monetary level, which is USD1, the investment layer, which is World Liberty Financial Asset Tokens, the governance layer, which is Board of Peace, the surveillance layer, which is Palantir and Oracle Biometrics, which we covered yesterday on the SJ show, the connectivity layer, which is Starlink, aka Elon Musk, the diplomatic layer, which is Witkoff as an envoy, and the physical design layer, Project Sunrise Smart Cities. These are your 15-minute cities completely surveilled. Without a single bounded territory, administered by interlocking networks of financially connected private global actors operating under the religious and political authority of one man. And that would be the technate, Donald Trump. And that man is Donald Trump. Thank you for Patrick Wood for putting it so succinctly in this piece. The Gaza technate, for the first time in history, technocracy is in plain view. All of the pieces that I mentioned here are linked under that in the show notes of the SJ show. We are going to be covering this very closely. Genius Act is a huge component of this. The regulatory, barriers to enacting this and enabling Trump to do this are built in to our laws, and the Genius Act, among others, is looking to take those apart. So this is why we need to join up with Aaron Day and try to stop it. So we're going to talk with Tiffany Cianci about that tomorrow. But we need to understand that what they plan to do and simulate in Gaza is what they intend to do here in the US. It's COVID only a million times worse. And we still haven't even gotten a reckoning for COVID. We're going to talk about that in a moment with Scott Schara, a good friend of the Shannon Joy Show and warrior for liberty. Scott and his family were terrorized by our government, by the medical industrial complex, and by the legal system in the brutal killing of his beautiful daughter, Grace Schara. Now, Scott never intended to wage the fiercest battle in the nation to expose COVID-era hospital kill protocols, which are still in place today, and medical murder. But his journey witnessing the heartbreaking murder of his precious daughter, Grace, led him to this place. Grace was a victim of COVID democide, and her story is among the most tragic of the atrocities that I covered on my podcast many, many years ago because of her innocence and just the senseless nature of the cruel, inhumane, terrifying treatment that she and her family were subjected to. And then to make it worse, the legal system years later subjected them to an even more torturous experience. Well, Scott is with me, warming up in the bullpen here on the SJ show. He's going to be with us in just a moment. We're going to finish out the show with Scott, give him the rest of the program so we can remember Grace and her story and talk about his book, which is so apropos for today's discussion. Is the government legally killing us? And he has the receipts. We're going to talk to Scott when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. I want to invite you. I would love to meet you. I know that we have the website up for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. We are meeting live here in Rochester, New York on March 21st for a full day. It is the 2026 fourth annual Summit for Truth and Wellness. I will be there live along with Dr. William Mackis, a leader in cancer care using ivermectin, fembendazole, mebendazole. He has treated over 8,000 patients. He just got his medical license in the state of Florida. He is revolutionizing how cancers are treated. He is curing cancers. We're going to be talking about cancer care, prevention with Dr. William Mackis, and we're going to be joined by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She's going to be coming up from the great state of Texas to be with us live in Rochester, New York, and also, of course, the amazing Sasha Latapova, among other distinguished guests. We are about halfway to sell out on this summit. So we have about 4 weeks, 5 weeks before the summit. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go ahead and get those tickets because I do anticipate a full sellout. We have limited seating. It's going to be a beautiful morning of presentations, and then we are going to break and have a lovely luncheon afterwards. Plenty of time to meet and greet, to meet the speakers, fellowship, collaborate. It's just going to be an absolutely beautiful event. I love hosting it. And of course, all the proceeds, everything that we earn over the expenses to put the summit together will go to Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, an amazing organization that I have been working with for many years. Their mission is to provide an alternative to the medical industrial complex with, information, seminars, and they are seeking to build a brick and mortar wellness center right here in Rochester, New York. We want to help them get closer to that goal. I am so proud to be working with Peter Schiff and Schiff Gold in 2026. There is no one that I would trust more to send this audience to in terms of a metals strategy, whether it's your gold and silver physically that you purchase and keep in your home or in a safety deposit box, gold and silver in an IRA, which you can do through Schiff Gold, or even investing in gold mining stocks, which Peter Schiff and his team can also help you with. It is time to get that metals strategy in place. Right now, silver and gold are soaring. Silver is approaching $85 an ounce, while gold is up over $45 an ounce. And people don't see this stopping anytime soon. I know it seems expensive to you, but I don't know that there is a cap to this in the near future. So you can get started now. I want to encourage you guys right now to go to schiffgold.com/joy. That is schiffgold.com/joy. Everything that you need, Peter's analysis, market reports, research reports. You can get plugged into his investment services, physical gold and silver, which we're going to be talking about this month, and also protecting your retirement with a gold or silver IRA. It's all right there at your fingertips on my page, schiffgold.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. In just a moment, we're going to welcome back into the Joy Virtual Studio Scott Schara, just an amazing man, a warrior for liberty, using the tragic death of his beautiful, innocent, sweet daughter, Grace, to save lives. And that's why he wrote the book, Is the Government Legally Killing Us? And he is saving lives. We're going to bring him in just a moment. But before we do, I do want to thank a couple of our sponsors and remind you about the Summit for Truth and Wellness. Get your tickets. We have less than 100 left, and we are 3 weeks out from the March 21st summit. We are welcoming Dr. William Mackis live here in Rochester, New York. He will be joined by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden live in Rochester, and Sasha Latapova, among others. Really thrilled to welcome also the Clout Hub team, who are going to be coming out to the summit as well. So it's going to be a great event. And Dr. William Mackis is saving lives. This is cancer prevention and cancer treatment. 5 years post-COVID shots. So many are dealing with the turbo cancers. It is tragic to witness. But Dr. Mackis has saved many, many lives using a combination of ivermectin, fembendazole, mebendazole, and diet. And he is going to give a full presentation on Saturday, March 21st. So get your tickets. TheShannonJoy.com is the only place you can get them. TheShannonJoy.com. Grab them today. Also, satellite phone store. I want to make sure that I'm mentioning, World War III lurking around every corner. Alien invasions, zombie apocalypse. We have, natural disasters, you name it. The satellite phone store is partnering with the SJ Show to get you guys everything you need to prepare for anything, whether it is a solar panel or generators, a satellite phone, a bivy stick, Faraday Technologies, you name it, they have it at the satellite phone store. And this amazing organization has sponsored the Shannon Joy Show for over 2 years. And they're amazing partners. They love this audience, and everyone who purchases something at the satellite phone store gets 10% off if you use the JOY promo code. So let's reward the companies that support our values and support platforms like this one, the Satellite Phone Store, an amazing partner of the Shannon Joy Show. Go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy, and make sure that you use that joy promo code. Without further ado, let's welcome in one of my favorite humans on the face of the planet, the amazing, wonderful Scott Schara. It has been way too long, Scott, since you have been with us in the Shannon Joy Show. And I just want to welcome you. The audience loves you already. They all know your story, but we're going to retell some of it today in context of the book that you wrote as a result of the horrifying situation that you found yourself in with your family. Your book is the Government Legally Killing Us? And I've linked it in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. And Annie is going to pop that link up in the live chat and on all of our chats. If we can help Scott with the pre-orders of the book, it is launching on March 10th. And you can get that book pre-ordered. But Scott Schara, congratulations on this project, and welcome to the SJ Show. How are you today?
Well, that's a mouthful. I'm doing exceptionally well, and you called it a project, and boy, writing a book, I never thought I'd write one,
Yeah.
and it is a project. To get it across the finish line is a big deal, and I am excited for March 10th. That's the release date. And it's really neat. Shannon, I got yesterday in the mail. Actually, beforehand, I do want to say something about your I was listening for the last 20 minutes where you said I'm in the bullpen. I like that term.
That's
So
right.
in the bullpen, Grace's story is so important, and it fits. It's one of the many tentacles, and you are very outspoken relative to what's going on, and I appreciate that. Your lane is wider than my lane. I'm outspoken about the medical industrial complex, but I have done some extensive work on Trump, and I just want to say, what you said while I was in the bullpen: assume the government is trying to kill you. If you start with that assumption, things start to make sense.
Mm.
And then you're not going to be deceived. If you start with that premise, you won't be deceived. And it's actually a biblical premise, because God made us to have a civil government, but the civil government is not supposed to be above God. It's supposed to be below God. And our government is put itself as the God. And that's not right. If you look up the term MAGA, MAGA, you'll shock yourself, because it stands for, or not stands for, but it is the highest degree in the Church of Satan.
It is.
And Operation Warp Speed, which Trump ran on that platform for the election, uh, that's the reason Grace is dead. And it doesn't discount my role. It doesn't discount the doctors and nurses' roles, but they had to get the fear porn ratcheted up to get that bioweapon jab in people's arms. And so there's no better way to get the fear porn ratcheted up than to have hospital murders at 1.2 million in this country, which was the highest by far on earth. We were number one in that category.
Yes,
Number
we
two
were.
is India, and India's US death count was 1.2 million in hospitals. India's was only 534,000, yet their population is four times that of the United States. So anyway, I just wanted to comment about that with regard to what you were just talking about. And then I
Yeah.
know we're going to talk about the book, and I just received my copy that I ordered to proof to make sure that the colors worked. I just got it yesterday.
Yeah.
And here it is, Shannon. It's right here. This is the very first
Amazing.
copy. So these will be shipped by wherever you're ordering them from. But they, believe it or not, they print these one at a time. So you don't
Yeah.
have to have a stockpile of them. So when people order this on Amazon, they claim they're going to receive them on the 10th, which is
Oh,
exciting. And Shannon, here's you writing the book.
I was
This is your,
I was
yeah,
honored. I was so honored to write an acknowledgement in that book. And you and I, we were in the foxhole together.
yeah,
Many of us just fighting like hell, for people who were locked in nursing homes, locked in hospitals, suffering because of an adverse reaction to the jab, losing their jobs. I mean, there were so many battles and so many fronts,
right.
and it really is tragic. You knew, and I knew, when Bobby Kennedy Jr. linked up with Donald Trump, the man who did this to us in the first place, that there was no place that we were going to be able to go with this, that this was only going to go badly. And you predicted that before the 2024 election. Now here we are in a situation where the infrastructure that they began to build in 2020 is now being built out. It's being weaponized, and it is accelerating in terms of the levels of control and surveillance. And we're seeing that with the technocracy, which we don't have to get into today. But I think that the bottom line understanding that this understanding that the government is legally killing us and legally able to kill us is something that is very, very important to understand. You mentioned the killings in U.S. hospitals during COVID in relation to hospitals across the globe, and it was dramatically higher. You are closer to this than I am. What do we know now in terms of those kill protocols? Many people thought, oh, so many people died of COVID in the hospitals. But what we're beginning to understand, Scott, and you tell me if I'm mistaken here, is that it was the protocols that were killing people. So the government gave protocols to the hospitals that resulted in their death, and then those were counted as COVID deaths. And then, as you just mentioned, that was used to justify the rapid development of the COVID shot, which was also poison. But what do we know now about what happened in those hospitals, and even in relation to what Grace happened to Grace in the hospital?
Yeah, fantastic question. And what's interesting about my research post Grace's death is once I understood the big picture, I got the focus off of COVID. So we'll start with COVID, and then I want to zoom out to the bigger picture because
Okay.
the bigger picture right now is causing 142,000 new medical murders every single month right now in America. And that's what I want to connect the dots with your
Okay.
audience today. And that's what I invest a lot of time in the book to show people with the receipts. So then Grace's death can help save your life. I mean, I don't want Grace's death to be in vain. So
Right.
let's go into COVID first. So what they did with COVID, in order to pull COVID off, the Health and Human Services Secretary was given unilateral authority through a series of laws in the 80s and 90s that the Health and Human Services Secretary could determine when we have a public health emergency, whether real or not. Of course, we now know COVID was a scam.
Hmm.
Uh, and they knew it was a scam. I mean, and so the Health and Human Services Secretary says, hey, we're in a pandemic. And so he can unilaterally decide that. Okay, then what happens is FDA takes over, develops countermeasures, and in the case of COVID, the countermeasures that everybody's familiar with are remdesivir and ventilators. Remdesivir with a 75% kill rate, ventilators with a 90% kill rate. And then in December of 2005, this is how Congress always does it. They passed the PrEP Act. Well, the PrEP Act was part of a defense appropriations bill in December. They do this between Thanksgiving and Christmas. These major major things that they don't want us to pay attention to. So now the PrEP Act came into existence December of 2005. Well, that was a necessary puzzle piece to pull off COVID because if a medical facility follows the prescribed countermeasures, so in the example I'm giving you, remdesivir and ventilators, they have immunity from liability. So that's
Hmm.
huge. So that's how
Yeah.
they are able to pull that off. Nobody will ever be held accountable for all these deaths because they have legal immunity. It's hard to even grasp. I mean, so we had the first lawsuit in the country for a wrongful death with COVID listed as the cause of death on the death certificate. So how did we do it? Well, the fact is, because we denied the pre-authorization for a ventilator, Grace was never on a ventilator. They had told us Grace was outside the window for remdesivir. So because Grace never received one of the countermeasures for COVID, we were able to break into that legal system and have the first wrongful death case.
Wow.
And, I quickly learned, which I intuitively knew before getting into it, is you don't get justice in the legal system. But,
Mm.
of course, I learned it firsthand that the reality is the legal system is there to protect the medical system. And I will show you how that is when I explain the bigger picture. So just to finish up on COVID, Shannon, uh, this is the first time in history that protocols were incentivized directly from the government. And as I zoom out in the book, the indirect incentivization of protocols has been happening since the early 80s. And I'm
Okay.
going to cover that with the parallel with COVID. So now we have a direct incentive to the hospitals, the medical facilities to follow these protocols known to kill. And on top of that, to light the fire with the medical facilities, they were advanced money. So it wasn't just they turned their bill in and said, "Hey, we did this." They were advanced money to do it. So it was to their best interest to code somebody as a COVID patient, or they would have lost their advance payment. That's how big this scam is.
Right.
So
Yeah, the financial incentives are horrifying. And it leads you to understand just how messed up this system is. It is a killing system. It is a killing system, and the human is the commodity. So your body, the body of your child, the body of your loved one, once you go into that
that's right.
system, you've got dollar signs hanging all over you, right? And the more they harm you, the more they're incentivized, to fix you. So it becomes this wicked, wicked cycle. And because, Scott, there has been no reckoning in terms of what happened during COVID, which what we all knew happened and what you saw happen. This is still in place, and it's expanded, right? And that's where you get into the bigger picture.
Right.
Um, tell us about how this has been expanded into the medical system today. I have a couple anecdotal stories that I want to run by you too that are very concerning to me because everyone needs to listen up. This is your family. You need to know what you're going into when you go to the doctor's office, the pediatrician, God forbid, the
That's right.
hospital, this system, so that you can protect yourself. So go ahead, Scott. Let's get into what we're dealing with today.
Well, since you mentioned anecdotal stories, I'm going to give you my own and tell you how important this is to the bigger picture. So I'm going to take you back to May of 2018. We were not awake to anything. We had conventional medical insurance, and I was 55 years old. And so the medical insurance says, "Hey, for $300, you can go in for a physical." So I scheduled my 55-year-old physical, went into the doctor's office, and he said to me, "Would you like to do a CT scan of your heart? We are running a special. It's normally $2,000. It's only $80." I thought, well, might as well.
Mm,
I felt fine, but for $80, you can't turn down the deal, right? So I
right,
go in
sure.
and do the CT scan, and the very next day I got the call that nobody wants to hear. You need to come in right away. So I go in and they tell me my calcium score was 1200, which is the OMG level,
Hmm.
and this is urgent. I said, well, what caused it? And they said, well, based on your blood work, you have high cholesterol. So what's the solution? Well, we have this statin drug. And so then I did not just roll over and buy into that, praise God. Cindy, my wife, and I graduated with a lady from high school who's a doctor, and I called her, and her name is Sue. And I said, Sue, this is what just happened. And I said, what do you know? And she said, well, my husband just had a heart attack 2 months ago. I've been researching this myself. I'm going to send you some of the research. So I started digging in alongside Sue, and I read a book by William Davis called Undoctored as part of that. And I found out that the cholesterol lie is how they fund this whole idea of how to treat heart disease. Heart disease is number one cause of death in America, 700,000 deaths a year. And the statin is the cause of the death.
Wow.
Once they put you on the statin, it's the cause of the death. And it does that in two ways. Number one is it's a direct cause of death for a heart attack. Number two, by reducing your cholesterol, it causes you to have dementia. So what they're doing is the solution is worse than the diagnosis. But the solution is the standard of care. So just to finish up with my anecdotal story, and then I'm going to zoom out to the standard of care thing because this is how they pull it off. In my anecdotal story, which, this is back to May of 2018, after I had invested probably about 200 hours of research, I went back into the doctor's office and I showed him what I found, that cholesterol is not the cause of heart disease. It's not even in the top 10, and what the statin does. And he was gracious. He said, Scott, your research is 10 years ahead of what I know. So I thought, well, that was impressed with his response. The
Yeah.
nurse walked me out of his office and said, Scott, I'm going to tell you something you're not going to want to hear. I said, what is it? She said, you have to take the statin. I said, what are you talking about? I don't have to do anything.
Right.
She said, our Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates are based on what percentage of our patient population follows the standard of care. And the standard of care for heart disease is the statin. I said, I'm not on Medicare and Medicaid. She said, you didn't hear me. It's our patient population. And if there's enough people like you who don't follow the script that we have to follow, we have to fire you as a patient to keep our reimbursement rates up. And
What?
that is the secret that I expose in the book. So that was an anecdotal story. Of course, I dug into it for the book because when you write a book, you have to have all the references, et cetera, to prove your story. So I mean, I did that. And I even interviewed a doctor for the book, and he told me I won't prescribe the statin, and I'm financially punished for not prescribing it because he knows
Wow.
what the situation is. So uh,
Wow.
I also read another book that was written in 19 was done in 84. It was published in 1985, and it's called Descent in Medicine. And in that particular book, it's written by 9 MDs, and they were seeing the standard of care model is not working, and they thought by exposing it they could stop this, and their conclusion was a patient is better off never being diagnosed, because once you have a diagnosis as a patient, now you're in their model, their standard of care model. So standard of care for heart disease, the statin. Standard of care for cancer, you know it, chemotherapy.
Right?
Chemotherapy has a 2.1% success rate after 5 years or over 5 years. So you have a 97.9% chance of not surviving 5 years on chemo. That's the standard of care. And guess what? If the doctor follows the standard of care and you die under his care, he has immunity from liability. This is way bigger than the PrEP Act. And this is how they pull it off. That's why I tell you medical murder is the number one cause of death in America. And it is by design. And the book proves this beyond a shadow of a doubt. It is a research book, but it's written from the perspective that those of you who are awake, it'll connect all the dots for you. We put an index in the book. But what I'm hoping with the book is that those of you who purchase it, that you read it and say, oh my gosh, I can give this to my parents who aren't awake, my
Right.
friend who's not awake, because I've gently told Grace's story in the book also, and it will wake the person who's not awake up gently.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
cannot emphasize this enough.
Yeah.
142,000 medical murders a month. And it's ongoing because of this standard of care model. And this is how the federal government controls healthcare is through the bureaucracy of Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And it is through the standard of care model that applies to everybody who has conventional health insurance and goes to a medical facility that accepts Medicare or Medicaid.
I have three observations here based on what you just said. The first is the fact that Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been in a position of power at HHS for 14 months. I mean, this is obscure. This is something they could so easily go in with a laser and fix and take apart. It's not like the country is going to revolt if Bobby Kennedy Jr. changes the standard of care provisions that are coming out of HHS and fixes this, right?
Correct.
And he knows about it. This is the other thing about Bobby Kennedy Jr. His life's work is exposing atrocities like the ones that you have just mentioned. He knows all of it, yet he still does nothing. That is so not okay with me. The second thing that I noticed in what you just said, this also mirrors the vaccine schedule as well for children. It
Right on.
explains why so many pediatric offices and pediatricians are absolutely brutal. They will kick people out of their practices if they are not fully vaccinated, if they don't accept the standard of care, which is the CDC recommended vaccines. Another issue with Bobby Kennedy Jr., the CDC is still sending out those recommendations and the standard of care. So they are complicit in the injection of millions of babies with poisons that they do not need, right?
That's right.
The treatment is the thing that is causing the problems. Now we have asthma and allergies and autism and all sorts of childhood diseases that Bobby Kennedy knows is caused by injections. It's not the food, it's not red dye 27, it's the injections. So, and then cancer is the other big one. I mean, cancer is, and this is, Dr. William Mackis, to your point, this is why they're trying to put him in prison in Canada, because Dr. William Mackis has treated over 800 or 8,000 patients alongside their chemotherapy with off-label generic drugs, health,
Yeah.
diet, that type of thing. And they literally want to put him in jail in Canada. He's coming to Rochester. I should invite you, Scott, to the Summit for Truth and Wellness as a distinguished guest. We'll set up a table with all your books if you want to come on March 21st. I would love to have you.
Wow,
I would
that
love
would
to
be
have
something.
you. I mean, and this audience will pour out their love on you. I mean, they know your story. They love Grace. They love you. You are a hero. But, so there are so many examples of this. And the anecdote I wanted to mention, and this
Yes.
is this is something I wanted to ask you about because this is particularly wicked and evil. What I have seen recently is an expansion of the genetic testing, right? The gene that is
Yep.
passed from one person to potentially their entire family. And it started with a girlfriend of mine whose mother was vaccinated multiple times. Of course, she developed a terrible turbo cancer, which she survived. But in that process, the cancer people said, oh, well, we're going to test you all for the BRCA gene. And oh, if you have the BRCA gene, then every woman in your family needs to go in. And they basically took my beautiful, healthy, perfect friend and scared her into a double mastectomy, a full hysterectomy, and all kinds of hormones, which then has led her down a path. I mean, she has had one health issue after another because she was frightened. She thought because she had the gene. I just, on my Bible study thread, another friend who, a family member, had something go wrong. They went in and they found this super, super crazy gene that no one else has, but you have it. And now your whole family needs to get tested for that gene. And there are protocols now that we can put your children, your grandchildren, and anyone that, related to you on as a precaution, which clearly Scott is going to just plunge them into the medical industrial system. I mean, do you have any thoughts on that with the genetic? Because I'm seeing more and more. And again, the genetic testing is something that Bob Malone and Robert Kennedy, like expanding the amounts of genetic testing out there and access to genetic testing is something that they're pursuing and funding and promoting from CDC, which really irks me. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have some big picture and very particular thoughts on it. So big picture, I'm just going to show you the page out of the book. So that's a catechist. That's their symbol.
Mm.
So when we start realizing what's going on, I mean, we've been programmed, and that is critical to understanding this. Like you said in your open before I came on, we're programmed to trust the government. So the
Yeah.
opposite, assume the government's there to kill you. Well,
Right.
we've been programmed to trust the medical profession, and we believe that the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm. I did a two-part podcast on the Hippocratic Oath. Yeah, I'm laughing about it because once you're awake to this and you start looking at things and start proving why do I believe this? Why do I believe the Hippocratic Oath is first do no harm? Well, the fact is the Hippocratic Oath is to four satanic gods. That's why
Mm.
the catechist is their symbol. So, the starting point with
Wow.
anybody when your doctor is telling you this, remember they have to tell you what is within their standard of care, period. And the standard of care is designed to hasten death. This is a worldwide eugenics program, and we're next. It's all of us. So you've got to cut the cord with anybody that accepts Medicare and Medicaid as a payment form. End of story. We have links on Grace's website in the resource tab, ouramazinggrace.net, where you can find doctors and nurses who have gotten out of
Mm.
the federally controlled medical system. Then, bigger picture, what's going on here? We've all bought the idea of collectivism, all
Mm.
of us in different ways, one way or another. And so, what's good at collectivism is what's good for the individual, or what's good for the we have to worry about what's good for the population versus
Right.
what's good for the individual. So
Right.
we all buy into that at a certain level. And we've got to reject collectivism. So I'll give you just how it happens. So you just become kind of an innocent participant, as Hannah Arendt coined the phrase when she studied World War II, when she saw everybody's in on this. It's a banality of evil. Evil's so
Mm.
common you don't see it. So here's
Mm.
the example. And I'll just start with a bold fact. Grace had Down syndrome. That was the best thing God could have ever given our family, Down syndrome, specifically Grace. Grace was the best thing God ever gave us second to salvation. She was an absolute gift. All right, so we were the anomaly. My wife and I had turned the baby department over to God when we were 39. Fertile Myrtle got pregnant 5 minutes later. We didn't do any of the testing. Okay.
Yeah.
But what happens? The typical couple, the young couple, they go in to the doctor's office. He congratulates them on their pregnancy and says, let's schedule your amniocentesis.
Mm.
And they have no roots. So what do? They're blindly trusting the system. So their only question becomes, does my insurance pay for it? And yes, why does the insurance pay for it? Because CMS is in bed with the insurance companies to write reimbursement codes that follow this standard of care model to hasten death. So the
Mm.
couple then schedules their amniocentesis. There is no risk benefit of this. The doctor doesn't explain what an amniocentesis is. They just blindly go in. So now the amniocentesis comes back, and the doctor has an appointment, and he says, it looks like your son is going to have Down syndrome. And I recommend an abortion
Hmm.
because why? Well, these are all the problems that Down syndrome people have. They have a training document that I have in my research stack. I didn't share it in the book because there's too much.
Yeah.
In my research stack, I have a training document written to doctors by MDs as to how to look through the lens of Down syndrome. And the take home point of that training document is Down syndrome is a burden on the family. So
Oh.
we should look at Down syndrome as in that light. So now the couple schedules their abortion and they think they're doing society a favor
Mm.
because people with Down syndrome are non-contributing members of society.
It's
So I mean, this is
collectivism.
this is the banality of evil. That's collectivism, and I would just tell anybody bluntly, if a doctor is recommending anything, assume that they're recommending something that's going to hasten your death, and then you'll be protected.
We're talking to Scott Schara. His new book is The Government Legally Killing Us? And we've laid out in this first segment how it works, the series of laws and the statutes and the coordination between the insurance companies and the governmental agencies and the medical industrial complex, the hospitals and the pediatricians and all of the different aspects of what is this, massive healthcare system. And it's quite disturbing. It's also quite lucrative too. Something that is disturbing to me as we move forward is the privatization. I mean, the private industry or the private organizations and corporations and the corporatization of this killing machine and the utter disregard for the human body and for human dignity and the human spirit as we move into what I think are going to be some pretty dark times. So I want to ask you about how the corporate is involved in this with the government, the military aspect as well when we come back, because I mean, at times you have a system that by its nature kills and is wicked, right? But with everything we've learned from the Epstein files and everything we're seeing now with the actions in the Middle East by this president and the creation of this apparatus, this technocracy, which embraces transhumanism and human experimentation and just these very dark, dark, wicked things. I wonder if you believe that there is a layer at some point. I mean, because I don't, the doctors, the nurses, the insurance agents, the people embroiled in the system, I see them as brainwashed and propagandized and deceived as many as of us, right? They're just kind of in the systems. And it's very hard for people in the systems to then wake up and say, oh, wow, shoot, I've been maiming and killing people. Like, how can you be a pediatrician, Scott? And at some point in your life, wake up and realize that you may have poisoned thousands of children and killed hundreds of children by injecting them, right? Like there is a cognitive dissonance that I think they have to operate behind in that system, or else they would not be able to look at themselves in the mirror. They'd stick their head in the oven, right? So so we have today, like we the people, those of us who have woken up and that we need to know kind of what this is going on, but we have the people still trapped in the system that are, making everything churn and burn. But then we have the people who know exactly what they're doing. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about those people. When we come back, I'd like to ask you about that and then get into, you mentioned there are more opportunities for people to spit themselves out of this system and go alternative, holistic, natural. For myself, I really just don't go to the doctor. That's kind of my thing. I've been very healthy with that philosophy, and I'm quite fine with it. I don't want to recommend it to anyone, but that's just what I do. So I want to get your thoughts on what people should do, right? Where they can go, what they should do, and how they can begin the steps of emancipating themselves from this system that is designed to kill them. So when we come back, we're going to continue with Scott Schara. His book is The Government Legally Killing Us, and he has popped that up. You can pre-order the book right now at on that link, ouramazinggrace.net. It's also linked in the show notes of the SJ Show. Let's support Scott and order a bunch of those books. We'll be back in a moment to continue right here on the Shannon Joy Show at 123.com/joy. Everything that you're going to need for preparation: generators, solar panels, Faraday products. If you want to disappear and protect yourself from the surveillance state, they have an entire line of amazing Faraday products called dark bags. They're always 10% off at the satellite phone store if you go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. The satellite phone store has supported the Shannon Joy Show for many years. They are amazing partners, and let's help the companies that help keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. So if you are in the market for any of their products or services, make sure you use that promo code JOY and go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. I want to invite you. I would love to meet you. I know that we have the website up for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. We are meeting live here in Rochester, New York on March 21st for a full day. It is the 2026 fourth annual Summit for Truth and Wellness. I will be there live along with Dr. William Makis, a leader in cancer care using ivermectin, fembendazole, mebendazole. He has treated over 8,000 patients. He just got his medical license in the state of Florida. He is revolutionizing how cancers are treated. He is curing cancers. We're going to be talking about cancer care, prevention with Dr. William Makis, and we're going to be joined by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. She's going to be coming up from the great state of Texas to be with us live in Rochester, New York, and also, of course, the amazing Sasha Latapova, among other distinguished guests. We are about halfway to sell out on this summit. So we have about 4 weeks, 5 weeks before the summit. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go ahead and get those tickets because I do anticipate a full sellout. We have limited seating. It's going to be a beautiful morning of presentations, and then we are going to break and have a lovely luncheon afterwards. Plenty of time to meet and greet, to meet the speakers, fellowship, collaborate. It's just going to be an absolutely beautiful event. I love hosting it. And of course, all the proceeds, everything that we earn over the expenses to put the summit together will go to Americans for Healthcare Alternatives, an amazing organization that I've been working with for many years. Their mission is to provide an alternative to the medical industrial complex with information, seminars, and they are seeking to build a brick and mortar wellness center right here in Rochester, New York. We want to help them get closer to that goal. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. Quick shout out to our friends over at PCM and Associates. Don Polano is my financial advisor. I've been working with Don Polano for almost 20 years. He was also the very first sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show. So when I launched this show, it was a radio show in a double wide trailer in a cornfield 12 years ago. I had one sponsor, and it was Don Polano of PCM and Associates, and he has been with the Shannon Joy Show ever since. I trust him implicitly. As you all know, my philosophy in these crazy times is all of the above. I am in physical gold, physical silver, real estate. I have a gold and silver IRA, and yes, I'm in the markets. I do have a Roth IRA, and I pay attention to it. I don't trust anyone else other than Don Polano to take care of me in that area. Things are very, very tumultuous right now, to say the least. And one of the things I love about Dom is he's just cool as a cucumber. He's cool as a cucumber. He shares my values and has really done a great service for me and my family. Well, he's opening up his practice to all of you. And if you're interested in talking to a financial advisor who shares your values and supports the Shannon Joy Show, I want to encourage you to go to PCMPolano.com. That is PCMPolano.com, and talk to Don Polano. He's one of my favorite people in the world, and you're just going to love him. So PCMPolano.com if you are in need of a new financial advisor. Without further ado, let's bring back Scott Schara to finish out the show. Scott's new book is titled, "Is the Government Legally Killing Us?" And as we've established, the answer is yes. And so, well, where do we go from here? Let's talk about who the bad guys are, Scott. I set this up in the last segment, regarding the killing machine that is the medical industrial complex. The government is involved. The insurance companies are involved. The people in the system, I don't think really know what's going on, but what is your thought on the bad guys? Are there groups of people who know exactly what they're doing that go into this setting up? I mean, everything in COVID was so coordinated, and everything that we see so now is so coordinated. And we even saw with the release of the Epstein files that Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Gates were plotting and planning on how to build up infrastructures through public-private partnerships in governments and corporations to profit from pandemics. So we know that apparatus is there. But what are your thoughts on who the bad guys are, and how do you think we address when we reckon with this? If we are blessed to reckon with this, how do we address figuring out like what to do about them, or how to punish them for what they've done to so many people.
Yeah, you gave me a mouthful to answer, and
Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fantastic. I think it's maybe one of the most important questions because we have to know where we stand in our relationship to God to be able to answer that question. So, um, most of these people are not our enemies. Satan is our enemy. And so there's very few of them that who have sold their souls to Satan. So, God will deal with all of them. That's the
Mhm.
reality.
Right.
Uh, Most people are not at that level where they know what's going on. So, I was threw doctors under the bus in the first segment, and I did that rightfully so. But it's not because their intention is bad. It's
Right.
because they're programmed. And in the book, I go through a process and lay out different places that each person is at. And I'll just start with I'll just hit the high points. So this is under the idea of the banality of evil. So we're all
Okay.
in on it, all of us. Okay, so and the first level is an unwitting participant. So the person that is at the hospital entrance that wants to have you sign your name on the blank pad that
Right.
turn over your rights to the hospital. That person is just they just have a job. They don't know that this form is designed to give up all your rights when you cross that threshold in a hospital. So I would call that person an unwitting participant. Then the programmed fools. So the
Mm.
programmed fools, I mean, as you know, with the Flexner report, then the Rockefellers take over
Right.
and start the whole allopathic medicine model. And now you can't have a license unless you've gone to their program schools. So just like the
Mm.
public fool system for the general population,
Public
we
fool system. Oh, so
we
sad.
have the medical fool system for the medical
Yeah.
population. So they don't know any better. So these are programmed fools. Um, so now let's ratchet it up. So now we go to those following orders. All of us have seen, things where the most recent one, where they're pushing a guy off a cliff. Um, and of course it's a reality show, but I mean it's real to the person pushing. Well, this was
Yeah.
already back in 1963, 62 years ago. The Milgram obedience experiment
Right.
showed that two-thirds of the population would kill another person
Mm.
if if the person who was giving the orders told them to do so. So so now think about where the programming is today with the law of entropy 62 years later. I mean, we've got people that are walking around as zombies. We have the government right now with the repeal of the Smith-Mundt Act in 2012 can legally use propaganda against its own citizens. And, they've been doing it way before the repeal. It's on steroids. I mean, we have programming, programming, programming. Jason Christoff, who's a mind control expert, um, he is so good, and he connects the dots that the way God made our psyche is that we want to go to the herd. It's a protection
Mm.
mechanism. The herd mentality is a protection mechanism built into all of us by God. Well,
Right.
Satan knows that too. And Jason's premise is that if something's repeated 6 times, we become programmed with that. So we're programmed, and we're programmed to be obedient to orders, right? Our whole concept, if the teacher gives you an assignment, you're supposed to be obedient to that order. All right, so now we go up to the next level, those who believe in collectivism. As I mentioned earlier, collectivism means we have to worry about the good of the population
Right.
versus the good of the individual. So that's
Mm.
logical, right? I mean, think about the limited resources on the planet nonsense. So they've
Right.
sold that lie over and over and over. They get us to participate.
Right.
They get us to participate through recycling. Recycling has been proven to be a scam, but we
Right.
recycle. So then we're tacitly agreeing to this lie that there's limited resources on the
Right.
planet. And then the worst ones, and then now we cross into the people that they should be punished, and those are the evil actors.
Hmm.
The evil actors who are uh, literally doing this. They've sold their soul for money. And
Mm.
so they know, Mary Talley Bowden shared, by the way, I'm going to be on her show tomorrow. She shared that
Amazing.
during COVID, she saved 6,000 patients. If she would have just vaccinated them instead, she would have made 1.5 million. Okay,
Ugh,
so how many of these people are evil actors in the medical profession? So think about COVID. All right, we had COVID, the scam lasted for 39 months. So the doctor who blindly follows the remdesivir and ventilator situation for the first month, the first 2 months, and all of a sudden he realizes, well, wow, 90% of my patients die if I put them on a ventilator. Maybe I should look elsewhere. This
right,
would be okay. So the person who gets caught for drunk driving one time, then the second time they kill somebody. Well, now let's say they're an eighth time offender.
mm,
Is that what where are
right,
they at this time? And there's a lot of the doctors and nurses who have become evil actors through a progression. I think that's a minority. Bigger picture than Satan's our enemy. He's
mhm,
using the government. So the people that are high up in the government, I absolutely believe they know what is going on, and they should
right.
be held to account.
Right. Scott, what do you make of the release of the Epstein files and the angles, the medical industrial complex angle, the amount of time and effort spent by Jeffrey Epstein to engage in the trafficking of humans and children in abuse, but also in building this infrastructure of death and destruction?
Yeah, yeah, that's a tough question. The first thing that I said to myself once those files were released is why now?
Hmm.
And it's interesting timing, especially now with what's going on with Israel and Iran. It's just why now? And it seems like we could be in what's called in Revelation the little season, where all this stuff is being exposed. The evil. One of the things that God revealed to me, Shannon, was to not use Grace's story to expose evil, and I'm emphasizing the word expose because
Mm,
that has to happen in the spiritual Hegelian dialectic, the
mhm,
esoteric spiritual Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution. So we have the Antichrist system being exposed right now, right? The Epstein, the medical industrial complex,
right.
the fact that our country is a corporation, all that stuff is being exposed. What's the reason? To create a revolt, the
Mm,
fear, the revolt, we're like, what's going on? We've been
right.
lied to. And so, what's the solution? Satan resurrects himself as the angel of
Yeah,
light, false
right.
prophet system.
Right.
So that's how I see the whole Epstein thing. I didn't answer your question specifically, uh,
Mm,
but it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody when they realize that Jesus said Satan is the prince of this world, and
mm,
God told us He runs the world through two beast systems: the Antichrist system and the false prophet system, and we've been duped by it.
yeah. Seems
Uh,
so.
we all fall for the illusion of peace and safety. God warns us of that in First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, to not be duped by peace and safety. Yet
Hmm.
we are. We've all tacitly, and some of us directly, turned over our freedom, our birthright to
Mm,
the state. And that's why my call is always for repentance. The only way out of this is repentance. We'll never legislate ourselves out. We're not going to vote
right.
our way out. It's always repentance.
Well, and let's talk about the way out because I do believe there is a way out. I do believe that we can have some peace here on earth and that we can restore sovereignty, raise our children. Throughout the Bible they talk about in any time, whether it is peace and prosperity or war and famine, and in any moment God calls us to get married, have children, plant
Right.
gardens, build houses, do the things. And he wants us to go for justice, right? So there's no, oh, it's the end times and the rapture's coming and I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
No,
Right on.
no, you can't do that. Like we gotta get going. And that's given me so much peace. And God always provides outs. People are very worried about the digital ID, the digital currency, all these things that they're going to want us to take, right? They're going to want, just like they wanted us to take the vaccine, they're going to create the conditions to move us into these things that we don't want to do. And I will tell the audience, God is so miraculous. in lighting little fires. Like they're like, well, how are we going to resist this? I don't know. He will give us everything we know to, or everything we need to resist it. But all of this comes through, as you mentioned, repentance and finding God and believing in God and trusting Him and being obedient and doing what you can from your corner of the world. So we have about 5 minutes. I'd like to finish, Scott, on what people can do. Where can they go? In regards to their health and their family, we understand the system as it exists. And there is certainly a way for believers and people, maybe you are not a believer yet, or you're not a believer, but you want to advocate and you want to protect your family. What can people do today to break their thinking, break the hypnosis, and get on a path of health and clarity in your perspective?
Fantastic question. That what a great closing question. So, big picture, one of Grace's lines, I smile every time I think of how her faith, the faith of a child, and she
Mm-hmm.
would say to me, God's got this, Dad.
Yeah.
And that just was beautiful, and that's helped me a lot since her death. The fact is I trusted the system, and Grace
Mm,
is dead because I trusted the system, and that's why I've become so outspoken. I don't want anybody, even my worst enemy, to lose their best buddy.
right.
So then, what can you do? I'm going to give some specifics, but I'm going to still give a big picture answer to that
Okay.
first, because
Sure.
the thing that when I get asked that, I've been just blunt and tell people what I know, what you can do is get comfortable dying.
Mm,
And because fear of death makes us the easy marks, right?
right.
So if you get comfortable dying, that's the solution. So how do you get
Mhm.
comfortable dying? Well, you got to know where you're going. How do you
Right.
know where you're going? Well, the Bible
Jesus.
tells us. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to know Jesus Christ is our Savior. Then we know where we're going. So I
Mm.
mean, hello, right? So then,
I love this.
um, so then what can you do? I mean, it's time to realize we have given up our birthright. So you got to cut the cord. So we've of course dropped our medical insurance. So
Mm,
then, well, what did you do? Well, okay, well, I mean, I'm not suggesting you do anything, but we chose to cover the catastrophic type thing that could happen via Samaritan's Ministries. Then we have developed the relationship with a medical provider who's outside of the system. So we do cash
mm.
pay. So you have a cash pay provider. Why? Because then they're not restricted to give you recommendations within the standard of care. We
Right, right.
have had one emergency since Grace's death. We got her on the phone right away, and she said it was just beautiful because I was going to
Mm.
go to the emergency room. And I
Yeah.
won't give her name over the air, but I
Okay.
said I can't go to the emergency room. They're going to kill me. I'm public enemy number one. And
Exactly. Right.
she said, I know, Scott. She said, don't worry about it. Here's the protocol. And so my wife was a great nurse, and it took about 2 months for the emergency to have God heal the
Hmm.
emergency without going to
Wow.
the emergency room. So it's a
Wow.
mindset. It's a
Yeah.
complete different mindset that, okay, I'm not going to trust the medical system first. I'm going to trust God first.
Mm.
On Grace's website, we have on the resource tab, we have a link to a whole system
Okay.
called Join the Wedge. And those people who have joined the wedge are medical doctors and nurses who have chosen the only condition of joining the wedge is they cannot accept Medicare and Medicaid. So
Okay.
then they're not bound by that standard of care system. So those are all practical things you can do. Of course, I would encourage every parent to get your kids out of the public school system immediately. You think, well, I'm not qualified. Okay, you are qualified. If you have a kid that just rides around with you or goes to work with you one day, they're going to learn more in that one day than they could in 2 weeks in the public school system. So
Probably.
yeah, you're the best qualified person to teach your kids as the parent.
Excellent, excellent advice. And the book is at ouramazinggrace.net. And the name of the book is very apropos for the times that we live in today. Is the government legally killing us? With lots of great observations and information about how you guys can protect yourself in within this system that is designed to kill us, medical industrial complex. Scott Schara, thank you so much. We have run out of time. I could probably spend another hour with you. I have so many more questions. But thank you for all that you've done. And we're always praying for you. And it's so inspiring to see how someone who has endured so much pain, um, pain that most people can never even fathom, Scott, that you can so beautifully and gently turn this into something that is for good and that is going to help people in your book. And I think that this book is going to help a lot of people. And I want to thank you for that. And you hang in there and you just, keep killing it because, I mean, your voice is so important. And I'm thrilled that you're going to be talking with Dr. Bowden. Good luck on that. And hey, let me know if you want to come to the summit on the 21st. We'd love to have you.
Well, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, God is the one. I mean, my favorite book of the Bible is the book of Esther, and
Mm.
I was made for a time such as this. He set me up. He got my heart ready for this, and that's why I'm doing it.
All
Thank you.
right.
God
All
bless you,
right.
Shannon.
Oh, you too, Scott. And you're welcome back on the show anytime. So thank you to Scott Schara. Again, grab that book, guys. Is the government legally killing us? The link is right up there in the live chat, and we'll be keeping tabs on everything that Scott is doing. So I want to thank all of you for being with me today. Yes, it is Wednesday. Normally, we have Dr. Mary Telly Bowden following the Shannon Joy Show, but we are no longer doing that. Mary is doing great. She's going to be with us on March 21st, but it's the scheduling of having to do it every Wednesday at the same time was really difficult for her, and the way that she does things. She's still seeing patients. She has a lot of advocacy that she's doing. And I think the format for her, it's going to be a lot easier for her to do pre-recorded interviews and then just post them whenever she can. But we got her up and on her feet. Her show is amazing and it is going to continue, but you're just going to have to find it on her platforms. You can follow Mary here on Rumble and of course, follow her on the Twitter as well. She's on every podcast platform, and make sure you pull up her interview with Scott Schara as well. So thank you everyone for being with us today. Thank you to Annie for producing the SJ show. Tomorrow we have Tiffany Cianci. We're going to get into financial crimes, heavy, heavy financial crimes, cryptocurrencies, private credit. There's a private credit disaster looming. Things are getting worse and worse. We're going to hear a lot from Tiffany tomorrow on the SJ show. So make sure you tune in here and get those summit tickets, theshannonjoy.com. That is theshannonjoy.com. Again, we have fewer now than 100 left, and we are going to sell out. So we'll be back tomorrow to see you guys all again. Thanks to everyone on the live chat. Future Ez, Jen Patton, LT Oracle of Truth, CJP Rumble, Ranger Niner. Great show, Shannon. Thank you, Ranger. Appreciate you. Yeah, you guys have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on The Shannon Joy Show.